been talking about basically these population acts, and Leo's done a yeoman's research on this thing, and the counties and cities and judicial circuits and school boards, there's hundreds of them. Okay, and they need to be gone. In your packet, you'll have the OC, the official code under section 28115 that gives you some of the guidelines and what the definitions of population bills are. And Joe Schroyer actually has written a book about it, along that he's given for ACCG. He used to be a legislative council member here. Now he's working for ACCG as their general counsel. And what he'll go in and explain that. And if you'll read this, I really need each one of you to read it, okay? Because it's going to be very interesting over the next couple of years, because we're going to try to get rid of all of them, okay? They're going to be gone and they're not going to exist. Now, the one thing that we did find out, and I talked to Joe today and others, what we have found out is that we can have a huge repeal bill, putting all of them in one big wad and doing away with them. And we're going to start real slow because we don't want to put anybody in mass chaos, okay, right off the bat. And this is why I've elected to have 5 subcommittees and the subcommittee chairman here, and I'll try to explain to you what we're going to do and how each one of them are going to work, and then we'll come back and meet again, and then we'll start with the subcommittee meetings, and I'm going to let y'all run with it when I feel like you got a little bit of a handle on these things, and we'll talk again. We'll have to talk it over with some of the different delegations. But to start with, we're just going to work with the school boards and the judicial circuits, because they're not as affected as much, and I'm keeping folks out of harm's way. Like Ms. Stevenson won't be on that judicial thing, because if it happened to mess up a judge and she's got to go before him, I don't want to get her I don't want her to get hit in the head with that. But I'm actually going to do this, and these are my subcommittees, and who I'm going to assign. On the local legislation for school boards, Ms. Stevenson's actually going to chair that committee. She's an attorney, and she's learned, and she's been here longer than most all of you. And I don't know, you've been here longer than me, haven't you, Pam?
I don't think so. I headed up the state agency. So
that's right.
I've been here
okay, well, okay. I didn't know if I thought you'd been here as long. Okay, so I came in 96. I got you about 4. But on that committee will be Brooks Coleman and Brian Strickland on that subcommittee, okay? You know, we'll be looking at the school boards. There's not that many, but I thought Brooks would help you, being that he's with education. And Brian, are you on education also?
No.
Okay. Well, then you're going to learn. It's going to be a learning experience for you in that. On the judicial circuit population acts, I'm asking Ed Reinders to chair that, and then putting Demetrius Douglas and Kevin Tanner on there with him. Is that going to be okay with you guys? And y'all going to learn about judicial circuits, okay? The population acts that affect them, and we'll work on with those. Will be our starting points, okay? On the local legislation for non-urban city population acts, these are non-urban cities. John Carson's going to chair that one, along with Representative Tanya Anderson and Simone Bell. I want to put you all of y'all together. You'll come up with the plans. I'll let y'all, if y'all want to sponsor the bills or whatever you want to do to repeal, I'm going to leave those up to you, okay, whoever you want to do it. I want you to become experts in that, because that way when you're sitting down talking to somebody sitting next to you, you'll know the things that you're going to have to do in order to pass local legislation in order to get this revamped. On the subcommittee for non-urban county population acts, Valerie Clark's going to chair that. Kimberly Alexander and Bruce Broderick will be on that subcommittee, okay? And those are non-urban county acts, okay? And last but not least, and it'll be the last thing that we kind of take up, and we're going to start working on it, but we're not going to do the bills this year. Will be local legislation subcommittee for urban population acts, and they have the most effect. And I'll chair that subcommittee because I'm not putting anybody in harm's way with that. I live in South Georgia. There is nothing urban down there, okay? Except maybe the Okefenokee Swamp for alligators, okay? So I'm not putting anybody in that kind of thing. But Patty Bentley and Jan Tankersley are going to be with me on that. They're both from non-urban areas also. They live close to them, but we don't live in them. And that will probably give us, those are the 5 committees that I'm trying to put together. I'm going to start, when we start putting these things together, I'll have a subcommittee and I'll call you up. You're going to look at those bills, and then we're going to come up with who it affects and how it affects it, come up with a repeal legislation. Madam Counsel. Yeah, I just look at she's already starting to throw a rock back here. I can see her. I can see the sledgehammer coming, and it's going to hit me on top of the head. But honestly, when those repeals come, we'll put them in a bill that will mandate all that. We're not going to do them one at a time. There's too many. We can't do them one at a time. So when we start doing it, that's the way we're going to work with them. Okay, and we don't want to put anybody in chaos. That's not what we're trying to do. But these counties, cities, school boards, judicial circuits are going to need to know that we're starting this process to get rid of these things. And I'm sure these young lobbyists out here and these young advisors are going to be telling these folks. I know that Joe Schroyer is going to be talking to the counties. He's already told them one time that these things need to be done. They need to be gone. They're outdated. The subject matter of the bill cannot be changed. It mandates stuff that maybe counties don't want or don't wish. It gives gives the population bills the dismissal that they need. They need to be gone, and local legislation needs to be in place. 90% of these bills were done to get around the old method of forming local legislation, which at those times you had to run 3 ads 3 weeks in a row, okay? And then when it happened, let's say you were late in the session and somebody needed to get a local bill passed, you didn't have time because you had to wait 3 weeks. Well, you don't have 3 weeks when you've got 9 days left. So I mean, but we can actually carry a local bill here to day 35. Really day 36, but we don't want to do that. Day 35 is a cutoff, and we can actually up until day and day 30 for you young members is the last day. It's called crossover day. Is when the last day that our bills can leave here and go to the Senate, and their bills can leave and go to the House. The last 10 days we take up each other's legislation. So that being said, but these bills, local bills, and local legislation does not fit that mold. It continues to run until day 35. And the reason day 35 is you just don't have any more time. You run totally out of days. So if you get day 36 and day 37, you just can't. I don't care if you've got 3 weeks in between each day, you don't have enough time to get it done for an actual day for it to run.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So in regard to population acts, all of them, over time, we need to clean them up. We need to repeal all of them.
That's correct.
Before we do, we need to make sure local legislation, if needed, is going to be in place.
Well, it can come afterwards. It doesn't. We can repeal the bill.
Yeah, it's going to be in place.
And they're going to have to come back and tell us. That's why they need to know what we're doing, your delegations, and they will come back then with local legislation. If they want the stuff that's in the bill
right.
to continue, yes, they will have to come. If they don't, it's just repealed they don't have to have it at all. Most of that, there's a lot of them that they don't even need.
And population acts need to be repealed by general bill. That means they have to be done and out of our chamber by day 30.
Yes, sir.
If it needs local legislation to patch on what we repealed,
that
has to be done by day 35.
That's correct.
Out of our chamber.
That's correct.
Sent over to the Senate. It'll probably go to SLOGO, but then approved during their session.
That's correct. And SLOGO is their equivalent of our committee. That's their intergovernmental coordination committee. Okay. So that's basically where we are and what I wanted to talk to y'all about. Now, I did ask everybody this little message here is you really need to read it, okay? And a lot of this is what Joe Shore has done in his research, and I'm going to be honest with you, Joe's done a yeoman's job with that. He had this for about 9 or 10 years. 10 years ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ward, I think 10 or maybe even 20 years ago, they had a mass of these that were just done away with, okay? Once they were declared unconstitutional, a lot of them were gone, but some of them kind of kept them up. 10 years ago, they had another big bunch that they either continued or did away with, okay? This past time, nobody did much at all with population acts. So that's why there's a lot of concern, because people really they haven't done much research on it. There's not been that much emphasis on it, and some of it may even affect you in ways that you don't want to be affected in your own area, or it could be that it's done something that you can't afford, or your county or city or whatever can't afford. So that's why they're unconstitutional again. I want to make sure that you all understand that they're not legal, okay? And that's why we're trying to do away with them. The bracket is legal, and the date and time, in other words, the actual date that they go in or they are in place is legal, but the substance cannot be changed. The subject matter cannot be changed within that population bill due to the fact that it's constitutionality. So this is why we're doing them. I've kind of taken on this project. It's a slow project. It's not going to be something that, and we'll have time, and I hope to get to work with all of you, because I want you all to be experts on local legislation, not just me, not just, and because I think that you can, and I've always been in my military career, you always train the trainer. So if I can train you, you can train the house, and I don't have to, everybody's then an expert on this committee, and that's what I'm going to do, make you all experts at what we do, and be well versed in handling it. And you'll also be an expert to and it'll make an asset to your community, because you'll know what local bills require and what you need to do in order to get them passed. Do y'all have any questions of me?
We will have.
Okay.
We may not stay.
Now, does anybody in the audience have any questions of me about this? Some of you folks out there, do y'all want to question me on what we're doing, or if you got any ideas? Yet? Not yet. Okay, I'm looking at ACCG and I'm looking at GMA, and they're both typing it, or they can go over there. So, y'all got questions? Not yet.
Will it affect fire districts?
Sir?
Will it affect fire districts?
Yes, in some, if there's a GP bill that's in there that creates a fire district, yes, sir. It could. I'm not sure what district you're talking about, but it could. We'll look it up. They're easily looked up. We got, I think it's that thick. It looks like War and Peace over there, but that's them. That doesn't even count last year's. So the ones that were carried over from last year, they're not in there, but from 2000 they are, and that's the ones we're kind of basing on.
Is this we're not going to get all this done this session. This
No.
is a multi-year project.
No, there's no way. I don't even expect a third of them to be done this year. Honestly, I just don't think we're going to have time. And number two, I want to do it a little bit slow, like a cat eating a grubbing hoe. You can't eat. A cat can't eat a whole hoe at the same time. You got to trim it a little, okay? And we want to kind of work our way up to the big ones, and that's the large population areas that have the most. And I'm just trying to be honest with you. Those committees first that I just mentioned, we'll be working on them first. We'll get them, and we'll get the repeal done, carry them down, let them take you the rules, take you through it, move it out, move it in, and then we'll go on from there. We can repeal anything we want to on a GP bill. Understand, they're a general bill. Okay, they're not like local bills. They were designed for local bills, but they're general bills. So anybody in the House can carry that bill. So understand that. So you don't have to worry about if you're messing with somebody. You're not. You're repealing something that need to be there. That's where you need to, that's where we're going for. And we've got the speaker's good graces on this one. He understands it. And he said, go to work. You've got your work cut out for you. So I'm going down and talk to him a little bit about it after we leave here. So anybody have any questions? Okay. Again, those subcommittee chairmen, I'll probably meet with them over the next week or so to get y'all where you need to be. We'll work on them a little at a time. And do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Not yet.
Not that I want to repeat public.
Okay. Not yet, anyway. I'm afraid that sledgehammer's coming from me, but like I said, we'll work this thing out. I just wanted to bring a committee in so y'all understand what we're doing, what my ideas are, and where we're headed with them. Okay?
I think that council and Leo will give each of these subcommittees a few to chew on.
Yes, sir.
And we'll
Yes, sir. Leo's going to bring those to you. They're going to chew on with the ones that we don't think that's got a lot of, merit to them anyway, that they're not doing much of anything. Those are the ones we'll work on first, unless, y'all want to do something else different. I think that's the best way to handle it. That if, Leo, what was one that they created
It was one of the Golf Professional Association years ago, probably not even in place anymore.
I mean, something like that.
it's archaic.
It just doesn't do anything. There's nothing there. Nobody even knows it's on the books, probably. Those are the kinds we're going to work on to start with. Something that, some committee that doesn't even exist, or building that's burned down for the preservation or, whatever,
That gives us a template to sort of
Yes, sir.
work from.
That's going to be your template.
build from.
And when you say work on, coming from local government for 23 years, I know Dan's there too, we're going to reach out to that local delegation, who then will reach out to that city or the commission.
And it's usually going to be that attorney, that county attorney or city attorney or school board attorney. They're going to be the ones that are really going to have to do the research to make sure that, okay, we need this, we don't need this. We get local legislation to come back and redo this for them.
But we wouldn't be doing anything until all those people were communicated with and were fully involved.
We'll give them notice. Now let me tell you what they'll do to you, and I know how cities and counties, and you've been part of it. They'll delay and they'll put it off. The way you get them to not delay and not put it off is repeal it. Then when they're standing there, they got to do something. Then if they need the legislation. If they don't, they won't. I mean, they just let it go. But if you don't force their hand, we'll be here till.
I just don't want to create an undue hardship or throw something on them without them having access.
No, I don't intend to do that. But we're going to give them notice, and then we're going to say that they're going to be repealed, such. This is where you're part of this. You need to look this up, see if you need to do it. And again, the first ones we do are not going to be that much of do that much of an effect. I'm not trying to affect it.
Mr. Chairman, what is the difference between, is there a criteria to describe urban versus non-urban?
Yes, sir.
Population density or something?
And I'm going to make those determinations about whatever I consider urban and what I don't consider urban. But the reason I'm doing that, John, is because I don't want you to get hung up on a thing for Cobb, because that is an urban community. All of that up here is considered anything within the Beltway. I consider urban.
We have gnats.
It's not urban.
That's
So, gnats. You got gnats.
See, my parents are from Reynolds, so I understand gnats.
Okay. Well, you understand where we're coming from. Gnats. Gnats. Okay. And honestly, I think y'all are going to enjoy this. I really do. I think you'll enjoy trying to get through this. It'll be something that's new. It's hadn't been tried in a long time. And I think it'll be something y'all can hang your hat on. I hope so, anyway. It'll make you experts, anyway.
If this project was completed, how many acts would you imagine are in total need to be repealed? Talking about 100, 50?
So if we're going to do all of them, there's probably several hundred. So But it's going to, like I said, it's not going to be something we're doing overnight now. Like a cat eating a grubbing hoe, remember that. Eating a grubbing hoe. Or a cat eating a battleship. You got to do a little, can't swallow the whole thing, you got to eat it a little at a time. Whatever you want to do. That's one of my colloquialisms. I've got thousands.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm with you.
Some of them are bad. You don't want to hear all of them. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed this morning, there were a couple of bills that were, it appears that they may be coming to this committee.
Mm-hmm.
Are we gonna be having a discussion on them?
Let me kind of explain to y'all on the non-controversial bills that we have. Most local legislation just comes to me. I sign off on it. Okay, I got to go. Okay, all right. She's telling me I got to go down and see Speaker. Ed, you're going to be running one of these subcommittees. I just want to let you know. You already got the word on it. But Ed, Representative Reinders was at one time the chairman of this committee, so he can tell you too that most of it just comes to me. I sign off on it, and we just go. We don't meet unless it's going to be a controversial bill, and there's going to be debate. We'll debate it in here. Okay. And so because the speakers ask us not to have debate on local bills on the floor, and if I see it, I'm pulling it, and I'll just pull it off the floor, and then nobody's going to get anything they want at that point in time. And I was like little babies. We can't let little children fight on the floor. So, and they will, trust me. There are times that people get their feelings hurt here, and there's personality conflicts, and I understand that. But that's all got to cease when we go in there, according to the boss. And I'm fully aware of that, and I'm going to uphold that. But if there's a controversy, we'll fight it in here. We'll vote it in or out, and then we'll carry it to the floor. And that's it. They don't debate it anymore. We'll debate the merits of it in here. Any other questions? Okay, I got to run down and see the boss, so we'll stand adjourned. And if y'all want these copies and all, I think Leo's got some. If you don't have them. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Firm represents the largest school board.
April 21st.